I'm going to be talking this morning on this phrase, be strong and courageous. I know at the beginning of the year, a lot of people decide on doing wild and wonderful things. This is the year I'm going to get fit. This is the year I'm going to join a gym, get out my bike, be happy, change jobs, get study, whatever, some major change. And I find with those sorts of things, unless you've been thinking about it a while and preparing for it, it can be really hard to actually stick with it. And maybe you have joined the gym and you've been 5 times and you haven't been since in the last week. I've also come across in the last couple of years that people have, what's your word for the year? As if they're going to have a word for the year. Again, if that works for you, then that's great. But is that something that God has placed on your heart, or are you just picking it up because somebody else has picked it up? I'm not encouraging you to have this as a phrase for the year. I'm encouraging you to have this a phrase for the day, and then every day, and then every week, and that will then stretch into the year, but will actually stretch into forever. This is not something I would like us to do, go out today really fired up and empowered, and then tomorrow we drop our bundle and we just forget it. This is something I feel that we need to be working on. We're going to start in Deuteronomy. This is towards the end of Deuteronomy, and then we're going to be launching into just the beginning of Joshua, because this phrase appears frequently. This is Moses telling the people, "The Lord will hand over to you the people who live there, and you must deal with them as I have commanded you. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them. For the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you." Now, what has happened up to this point is that God has promised Moses and the Egyptians to go into the promised land. And we've had 12 spies be sent out to check it all out. 10 of them come back saying, oh, no, they're big and they're scary. 2 of them have come forward and said, no, we should go for it. It's fantastic. It's got this and it's got that. And it's like, and sometimes I must admit, if you were hearing these 2 compared to these 10, you'd think, were you actually looking at the same place? They were looking at the same place. They were looking at the same place. And one of those people that was out there coming back with a positive report was a guy named Joshua. But Moses at the moment is telling the people that this is where we're going to go. You've got to be strong and courageous. Then we've got Deuteronomy 31 still, just a little bit after. Moses is now telling Joshua. So he's told the people, and then he hones in on Joshua. Then Moses called for Joshua, and as all Israel watched, he said to him, "Be strong and courageous." Now, I just want to highlight here that if he said this to the people, and then he calls out Joshua and says, "Joshua, stand here," you're all watching. There's nowhere for Joshua to hide. The Israelites were his witness. But he's saying to Joshua, "Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that the Lord swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their grants of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you." Then, just in case Joshua didn't get the message, God speaks to Joshua. And we are really, even though it says there Joshua 1, we're really virtually straight after Deuteronomy 31. So hopefully Joshua's getting the message here. Very first 4 words are, be strong and courageous. For you are the one who will lead these people to possess all the land I swore to their ancestors I would give them. Just in case you didn't get it, be strong and courageous. Be careful to obey all the instructions Moses gave you. Do not deviate from them, turning either to the right or to the left. Then you will be successful in everything you do. Study this book of instruction continually. Meditate on it day and night so that you will be sure to obey everything written in it. Only then will you prosper and succeed in all you do. This is my command. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So we've had it's actually written there 3 times, and I've already read it out twice more in those Deuteronomy parts. But there's more. Joshua is now speaking to the people. So hopefully the people are getting this message too. Then they answered Joshua, "Whatever you have commanded us, we will do, and wherever you send us, we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous." Now, I think already Joshua has been strong and courageous. Those 12 spies were actually strong and courageous in going out and looking at this new land. They all managed to come back. It must have been scary to go into a new place, not knowing who you're going to see, what you're going to see. Obviously, 10 of them came back quite nervous, very worried, very fearful. But Joshua and Caleb came back pumped, saying, "No, this is it. We're going in." And that was sufficient for Moses to also get that message. I'm going to just bring it back to a couple of earthly examples as such of people who have walked this earth, not necessarily following God, although they have at various levels, but I think their words are still valuable. And then I'm going to bring it back into what God thinks. So bear with me here. One of Nelson Mandela's key phrases in one of his famous quotes was that courage is not the lack of fear. The quote there, "I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but their triumph over it. The brave man is not the one who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear." Now, fear is a fairly broad term. And fear at one level is good, in that I'm not just going to launch out onto the street and just blithely cross it and expect everyone to stop around me in the traffic. And I'd be the first one to get hit by a bus if I was even to think of that idea. Fear is also to be kept in mind when maybe you're near a fire. If you've got kids and you're saying don't touch, don't go near it. We need to have a sense of fear about some things around us. Otherwise, we're not going to survive. And there is that fight-flight, process that our body sort of steps into when we hear or see something or we're in a situation. So that aspect of fear is good for our safety. But being fearful of the unknown is not good. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen this year. Will the plans, will my job, will my family, will this health? If we're going to worry and stress, and I guess here fear comes in with stress and anxiety, then we are actually wasting today and we're wasting this moment that God has given us. Worrying about things tomorrow now is useless. It actually says in the Bible about 365 times, one for each day of the year, do not fear, do not fear. That sort of fear is not of God. So if you've got little voices saying to you, I wouldn't go there, I wouldn't apply for that job, and I wouldn't take that step, and I wouldn't sort of go and, speak to that new person or try something new, or really, your life is rubbish. Really? Is anyone going to listen to you? Are you going to be worthy? Is anyone going to pay attention? That is fear that is not of God. God does not put fear into our hearts. God does not speak fear and negativity over us. He speaks joy, he speaks love. And with that, it could be tough love. Listen, that really was the wrong decision, but, come back to me. As you repent, as you go back and you say, I'm sorry for what I've done. Gee, I have made a mess of that. God's not going to be the first one to point and say, I told you so. I'll speak to you in about a week about it. He's actually going to welcome you back, like the story of the prodigal son. He's going to be running down that dirty track, holding his sort of robe up so he doesn't fall over. He's going to be running to greet you and welcome you with open arms. So fear, like that anxiety and stress, is not from God. So I think Nelson Mandela hits part of the point here. Courage is not the lack of fear. And I would imagine Joshua would have been fearful, or would have been that little bit, alert, anxious, but alarmed, but not alert, but not alarmed. But he would still be going out. So that was not freezing him. That was actually just getting his senses aware so that he could take that step. That is the message I take from this quote from Nelson Mandela. And from the life he's led, I think that there's value there. Another quote I wanted to share with you. I have up here a portion of a speech given by Theodore Roosevelt, and the speech has ended up being called The Man in the Arena. This is the beginning of the speech. This was given by Theodore Roosevelt about a year after he'd finished serving his presidential terms, and he happened to be in Paris, just for those who are interested. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood. I want to continue reading. I couldn't get it all on there, and I didn't want you to have to squint, or me to squint to read it. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. What I take from that is that in this day and age we've got keyboard warriors. We've got people who are sitting comfortably. They could verbalise it, or they could be just doing this anonymous stuff online, or writing bits to the media and stuff like that. And they're pointing out the mistakes of others. But what they are not doing is they are not getting up out of their seats and giving anything a go. They're quick to point and say, wow, that was a mistake. Gee, do you really think you should do that? And here are my views and opinions on something that all I've done is read other people's views and opinions, but I've actually not gone out and had it and seen the coalface myself. We can sit in our comfortable white picket fences and think, gee, the world out there, it's awful, it's rubbish. And I'll just stay here because I'm safe and I'm comfortable and I've got a roof over my head and I've got my selected friends. We've seen over time with many major things that happen that, and I guess we all do it, we end up surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. So if I'm getting up and fired up about various things, I'm going to be talking and hanging out and reading articles of other people who think the same. And therefore I'm just moving more down that end of a spectrum of, wow, the world is awful and it's going down and I think I should just go and, I'll just hang out with these people. But I'm not going to hang out with anyone who has contrary views to me. I'm not even going to listen, because I actually am concerned that if I listen to you, I might be challenged on my thoughts. And then where am I going to be? No, it's got to be here, and I'm not going to listen to you. Put the fingers in the ears and la, la, la. But am I prepared to actually listen to other people? Am I prepared to read other people's views? Am I prepared to walk out the gate of my white picket fence and see what it's like, what life is like on the other side, and see how other people live? Because it's easy to point the finger at all these groups or these things that are happening, but if you're not going to be reading broadly or actually going out and seeing what it's like, then you're actually just getting more and more into your own ghetto. So what I like about this is that Theodore Roosevelt is actually encouraging us all to get in there and get dirty. Strive valiantly for what you believe in. If you make mistakes, and you will, pick yourself up again and keep going. You are spending your time and energy on something that is worthy. And as much as Theodore Roosevelt was probably just using this as a pump people's tyres up, I want us to think about this from the position of where are we with God? So what is God challenging you to do? What is God challenging me to do? That's when we've got to put our toe in the water, take that step and actually give it a go. Just move slowly towards where we believe God is calling us to do. It's easy to get into your car. You could even turn the key. But until you let go of the handbrake and put it into gear and put your foot on the clutch if it's a manual so you don't bunny hop through, the car is not going to go anywhere. A parked car goes nowhere. It's safe. But it's actually pretty boring because you're going to get the same scenery. You're just going to see the same things all around you. So this aspect of Theodore Roosevelt's speech is, I would like to encourage us to get in our car. We don't know where we're going. We're not even going to put on our Google Doovalaki with our phones, but we're just going to get in the car and we're just going to go and see where God drives the car with us for us. And I think we will be, it will be scary. And I'm the first person to not go on those Mad Mouse things at the show. I do like things safe. I'm the one that's happy to stand on the ground and look after your bags while you go up and down and all around. So I'm the first person to not do that, and I won't be abseiling and whatevering. But we do need to step. We need to move. We cannot stay here. We need to move. We need to step. And even from a physical perspective, movement is good for the body. So you've got to keep moving. God actually wants us to keep moving. God wants us to get in the arena, get our hands dirty, get our faces and our clothes dirty. And Gary often talks about this as a messy church. And Rob had a phrase about, if you're going to have cows in the barn. One of my hopes, and one of, I guess, Gary's and my hopes when we first got married was that our house would be a home for us, obviously, but also would feel homely for those who come to visit. It's not going to ever appear in Home and Beautiful magazines. It's going to be a home where people can come, the kids can rip-roar through, things can be spilt, knocked over, broken. We're going to clean it up afterwards, but come in, kick your shoes off, curl up on the couch, cry, sit wherever you want. Just probably have to move the washing to find somewhere to sit, or, clear some of the mess off the table to have room for your coffee cup or whatever. It's going to be messy, but it's going to feel homely and it's going to feel more comfortable and in that welcoming. So, we can't sit back. We are called to be involved. We have to get dirty. We have to move the car. We have to step forward. Peter, we talk about Peter stepping out of the boat and how his faith failed him. But actually, to have even stepped out of the boat is a massive thing. I mean, who in their right mind would be in a boat in the middle of water and think, I'm just going to step out and I can walk on it? I mean, he could see Jesus doing it, and for some crazy moment he thought, hey, if Jesus can do it, I can. And he actually stepped out of the boat. He actually stepped out of the boat. Now, he started to sink, but Jesus was there to pick him up. We are not alone as we take that step, as we step out of the boat. God is with us. He's not turning a blind eye and thinking, oh, you just go and do you, and I might pick you up or I might throw you a life jacket. God actually wants us to step out. He appreciates a heart. I think he appreciates a heart that is gung-ho for him. And maybe others will look and think, wow, they're a bit foolish, they're a bit excited, they're a bit like a puppy let off a chain. But there's enthusiasm there and there's excitement. And really, who's going to want to come to Christianity? Who's going to want to come and learn about Jesus if we just give the appearance of being dull and colourless and boring and we're safe? We're not risk takers. We're not stepping out. We're not trying new things. We're not being brave to approach someone. And some of us are better at this than I am, really, at sharing the gospel or giving a smile to someone or helping someone or taking a meal to your neighbour or taking something to some random or paying the supermarket grocery bill of the person who's beside you or behind you or whatever. God wants excitement and enthusiasm, and it's a lot easier for him to sort of harness that and give a bit of guidance because you're moving. If you're not going to turn the key and let the handbrake off, you're not moving anywhere. What can God do with you? I'm bringing it back to this piece, and I might actually just, if you could bear with me and not get lost. That's the wrong one. I've highlighted the strong and courageous, but the last line in this, for the Lord your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. The last piece here, for the Lord will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. I think there's a second message here for us. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Now I just want to flick through, because on this one I did highlight it in red. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Now in the Bible, depending on the version of Bible you have, be strong and courageous is written anywhere between 13 to 25 times through the Bible. It varies according to the versions. But 4 times it's said to Joshua. So, can I encourage us today and tomorrow? And not just, this is my yearly goal. For me, that seems way too massive. I know the year will go quickly, but I actually need something a little bit smaller. I think if we have, these people that have goals, I'm going to go to the gym once a week or whatever. It's like, for me, I need to make sure, how about I get to the gym this week? And then I'll worry about how about I get to the gym this week. And before I know it, I've actually gone, say, 5 times out of 7 weeks or whatever. Like, I'm going to read the Bible from cover to cover this year. And if you miss a day, don't feel like you've failed and, I'll have to start again or I'll have to think of something else. Let's just break it down into small chunks. So, let's leave today being strong and courageous, because we know that God is with us. And if we've got God, what more do we need? What more do we need? Who else do we need? I think because of our worldly nature, and God has actually built us for community. So we need family, we need friends, we need those close friends, we need those bigger groups. Some of us are extroverted and like lots of people. Others are introverted and just like a few people. But we do need people, so don't disregard anybody. But be strong and courageous, and know that if we are all being strong and courageous together, there will be days when we'll fail. I'll be the first one to tell you I have days of great weakness, where I'm thinking, I can take on the world, and then it's hardly a few days later and I'm thinking, where am I? What am I doing? And I'm a bucket of tears, and I'm really no good to anyone. But we have to be strong and courageous, individually with God, but also together, and together as a church. Because when one of us is stumbling, when one of us is falling, others can just rally round and sort of carry us along until we've got the strength and the energy to gain our footing again and be part of that group. And then we're there when someone else goes down. And we're just all moving forward. We're being strong, we're being courageous. We're putting our toe in the water. We're moving our cars. And I reckon as Southland does that together, we're going to go ahead in leaps and bounds, both individually but also as a church. And the impact we will have on our communities, the communities we all work in, are in, is going to just flourish. People will see something new about you. People will see something different. People will then question and say, hey, what's happening and what are you doing and how's it going about it? And what, you've got something there, what is it?